Hey everyone, I'm Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have the lovely Anna James with me. So Anna is a author and also a book critic, reviewer,
book person
in general. When I think about people that I know who read a lot and know the most about books and the publishing world, like you always come to mind. And I've been in a bit of a reading slump lately, and I think it was a public Twitter interaction that then became DMs.
Yeah.
I was just like, how do I read more? I need to be able to like read faster or something. And you were like, I can't help with reading fast.
Mm-hmm. But I was like, but I do actually have things that can help you read more if that's something you really need.
I do. Unread. It's really sad.
I mean, I have a lot of unread books as well. There's no like shame or judgment to not reading in any way at all.
No. How many books do you think you read?
So I reckon I read at the moment about 100 books a year. So it used
like
to be
2 a
more.
week.
So now I do a lot of writing, but previously I was a full-time books journalist, and I used to read about 200 books a year when I was like working as a proper literary editor.
I don't know if this is going to be one of your tips, but one thing that I've found that really helps me, and it seems so basic that this helps me read faster, is actually running my finger along the line at the same time. Like I feel like I go way faster and I'm actually picking up the words and what's happening when I'm doing that versus just staring at the page.
Right.
Anna has basically come up with 5 tips for how to read more. I don't know what they are, so you can share them with me and you guys.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll all learn something.
So when I was writing these down, these all sound so obvious. But
sometimes you might need reminding.
I genuinely think that maybe it's just if you consciously think about this and actually do it. So none of them are, quirky or scandalous.
Okay, no, that's fine.
But the first one is know what you want to read. You have an evening that you fancy reading, you want to go on holiday, and you look at your bookcases and you're like, oh, but there's nothing I really fancy. I always know what I'm going to read next. So when I get books in, and I'm lucky that I get sent lots of books, but I keep them in priority order. And I really think that if you don't have your book ready, and the moment passes so quickly. And so have a pile of books that you know that you want to read, with like a couple of options for like being in whatever mood you're in.
Yeah, because sometimes if you finish a book, you're like in that momentum. You want to just like pick one up straight away. Whereas if you then put that down and then you spend a couple of days being like, oh, what do I want to read next? You've lost it.
A habit sounds so dull, but so much of it is habit. Buying books when you see them that you fancy them, and then keeping them and having books on your shelf that you're excited to pick up, rather than sort of just staring and being like, oh, I maybe would read a book, but I don't have anything to hand.
Oh my god, I definitely do that, and it reminds me of staring at my wardrobe full of clothes and being like, I've got nothing to wear.
Exactly.
I don't want to wear any of this, and I do that with my bookshelf.
Yeah, like I have nothing to read. Another obvious one that like actually when you do it makes the huge amount of difference. I'd say this is the one that makes most difference, and that is just use every moment. So much of my reading is because I always have a book in my bag, and I read on the tube, I read when I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment, I read when I'm waiting for the bus. There's nothing wrong with going on your phone, obviously, in those moments, but sometimes I think that it's easy to just do it because you just want to pass the time. And if you always have like a paperback in your bag, the amount that you will get through. I can read like a book in a week, and I've never sat and just like read it at home on the sofa. I'm just reading it while I'm on the tube and I'm doing things. And I know that Lena, she basically only reads on her commute, and she reads a huge amount of books. So much of it is just an active choice. Yeah,
it's like in that moment where you would normally reach for your phone, reaching for your book.
Yeah, this one I think you'll like because you like, you're very productive, things like that.
Tell me.
Have goals, basically. If I have to read a book in a short amount of time, I read it in 50-page chunks, and it doesn't have to be 50 pages, but if you sit down to read
and you go, I'm not stopping until I've read 50 pages
or 2 chapters, because I think a lot of people, I was watching your video where you read the first chapter and you were getting sleepy,
I think
sleepy. That if you sit down to read and you're like, I'm just going to read, it's really easy to get distracted, or to just, I'm going to go make a cup of tea, or I feel sleepy. And I think if you say, no, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read for half an hour, or maybe 20 pages is better, because 50 pages is when I really need to read a book fast. And you just get through stuff if you give yourself a goal. And then linked to that is making lists. I have a spreadsheet of books that I have read.
Oh my god, I want to see the spreadsheet. Because I have just like a general list, and then I also have my bookshelf. But oh my god, tell me about your categories in your spreadsheet.
So it's really deeply nerdy, and it is also quite publishing oriented.
Right, okay.
So there's a lot of just publishing details about lists and who published it and when it came out and things like that. But it has title, author, gender of author, and I also keep track of how many writers of colour I'm reading. I just realised I was reading books almost entirely by white women a couple of years ago, and so I try to just consciously make sure that I'm reading more diversely.
I also can't really remember the last time I read a book by a man.
I mean, I keep track of that more just to entertain myself at the end of the year by how few books by men I've read. And it's also, you can just know what you've read, and I think that people forget what they've read, and it's nice to see the patterns that you form and what you're drawn towards, and there's a level of satisfaction. Also, you can like, no, I have read that many books.
Yeah.
And I read 3 books that actually I really, really loved.
Do you think there's any benefit in like having a goal of how many books you want to read in a year? Because people have different opinions about this.
Personally, it's not how I would approach it. I think that it's obviously not something that is morally or ethically wrong in any way. It's just personal preference. I am aware that I see people kind of beating themselves up for not getting to those targets, and I just think that how can that help you, A, read more, or B, like have a positive approach to reading. Like, part of the reason I read so much is because I just uncomplicatedly love it. And I am not chastising myself if I keep track of how many books a year I've read, but I don't feel any pressure to get to a certain number or judgment. And also, like, this sounds so, like, sometimes like books just take longer to read. You know, if you read like The Luminaries, which is an 800-page novel that's, you know, slow going, or you read a graphic novel, both of which are brilliant, enjoyable things to read, like, but they take a different amount of time. And I don't know that like number of books quantifies anything useful. Read with a purpose, I put this one. This is things like, so I mean, potentially it's join a book club. I can't be part of book clubs because I'm too annoying.
That's some great self-awareness.
So I'm not going to join a book club, but you could join a book club, although other people, it's a risk, other people. So I say the other version of that is pick a book with a friend that you know and like, or use things like book prizes. So most people don't, when the Booker long list has just been announced, obviously most people, you don't read all the books on that long list, but what you can do is look at the long list and pick out the one that appeals the most to you, and then say, well, I'm going to read it by the time the shortlist is announced. So many people, I feel, read books that they don't like that much because they don't know how to pick things that they're going to like.
What's your opinion of like stopping halfway through reading a book that you're not enjoying?
I am all for it. And my last tip was basically read without any judgment or rules whatsoever. There is just no, it's supposed to be fun, like it's not a chore. Because as soon as you apply rules and structure, it can take away some of the fun of it, which is why we read. And I absolutely believe in stopping books that you're not enjoying, because life is too short to read not necessarily bad books, but
just ones that aren't bringing you joy. It's not actually important to read more. It doesn't make you a better or worse person. Maybe this is me telling it to myself, rocking back and forth.
But it's more like, like this is like, if you would like to read more because you enjoy reading and you struggle to find the time, that's what this is about. It's not saying that you should read more. It's saying if you feel like you would like to read more, this is maybe some ways that you can find the time or give yourself ways of thinking about reading, so you can read more.
So you have some recommendations.
Yes. So I tried to think of 3 books that, there's no such thing as a book that everyone will enjoy, but I tried to think of 3 books that I felt like had a fairly broad appeal. The first one I don't have. The first one is a book called Daisy Jones and the Six, which you might have seen like doing the rounds. It came out quite recently. Daisy Jones and the Six is it's a novel, but it's written through kind of imagined interviews with the members of a band that are Fleetwood Mac-esque.
Oh, okay. So like legends.
Yes. And it is about how they got successful, how this singer, Daisy Jones, kind of got involved with the band, and then they had this gig, and after that they went their separate ways, and it's like piecing back together what happened. It's incredibly readable, but incredibly good. I love books told in lots of different like narrative voices. The other 2 I've got is this one, American Marriage.
That won the Women's Prize.
That just won the Women's Prize.
And you bet money on it.
I did. I was so insufferably smug about it. But this is also one of those books that I just would recommend to almost anybody. It is about a marriage, as the title suggests. It's about a young couple, and the man is accused of rape and he goes to prison, and it's just after they got married, and it's a young black couple in America, and it is about marriage and race and the way that you change and evolve, and it's a lot of it's told through letters. And again, it's very, very readable, but it also is tackling really big and very timely subjects. It feels like a book that just is a good one to read in 2019. And the third one is Station 11.
A friend of mine has just finished reading this, has been raving about it.
This is a dystopian novel,
Ooh.
but it doesn't necessarily it's not what you expect. It's flashes between a sort of now-like time with a virus that is spreading around the world, and then in the future, where in the aftermath of what has happened. The other narrative is about basically what do you live for, and is survival enough? Is just existing, is that enough? And how the world might put itself back together if a virus wiped most of us out. This is a proper can't put it down. We'll read it in a small amount of time.
And do you want to plug your book?
I just happen to have it right here.
Dun, 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 dun.
This is the first one that just came out in paperback. It's called Pages & Co. Tilly and the Book Wanderers, and it's a fantasy adventure series for kind of 8 to 12-year-olds.
And she like steps into books and stuff.
It's like all that language you use about, you know, getting lost in a good book, and like books can transport us. It's sort of like, what would that look like if that was all literal? The language we use, like plot holes and stuff. What would
that's cool. But yeah, thank you so much
Thank you.
for the recommendations as well. Just like more books to add to the TBR. Yeah. Where can people find you online?
I am a Case for Books almost everywhere. I'm a Case for Books on Instagram, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel that I sometimes talk about books on.
Yeah, so if you want more book content, go and check Anna out. Thank you so much for watching. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let us know in the comments if you've got any other tips for how to read more, find the joy in reading rather than making it like this competition with yourself. And also if you've got any other book recommendations that you think are as universal as possible.
Obviously there's no such thing really, but some books are closer.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! I feel like when I think of people that I know who read a lot and like know the most about book,